And welcome to the Daily Space Weather, folks. I'm your host, Dan, aka smAsho. We're starting things out today looking at a coronal mass ejection, which we forecasted yesterday. Zero surprises there. It looks like there is a small Earth-facing component, at least on the front edge of this. It's too early to tell, based on the LASCO coronagraphs, if the entire thing is Earth-facing or not, but there is a halo eruption. We'll show you it on the next pane. So here's the LASCO C2, and by the way, this is the view from stereo A, which is behind the Earth orbitally speaking. For you new viewers out there, the Earth would be in this direction. And as you can see, part of that coronal mass ejection is headed that way. And here's the indication that it is. You can see around this area there's a halo right at the beginning there. So midway through the movie there, you can see a little bit of a halo, and that's the leading edge of that coronal mass ejection. You won't be able to see it yet on the LASCO C3, and these satellites are in between the Earth and Sun at Lagrange point 1. Here's the C3, a zoomed out version of the same thing. Move that up a little bit so you can see date stamps. And again, you can see a bit of a halo, and that's the leading edge of that coronal mass ejection. So watch this throughout the rest of the day. If you want to look it up yourself, just do a search for the LASCO movie theater, the Soho movie theater, and you'll find all the different the LASCO and the other Soho instruments like 171 angstroms and so on. Anyway, there's that data run once again. And let's take a look at some images of the Sun here. How about a 94 angstroms? It may show us a coronal mass ejection, and it may not. Just give that one moment to load, please, and bear with me. And we are streaming live. In case you didn't know, it's twitch.tv/smAsho. Here's a 48-hour Solar Dynamics Observatory movie. Most activity here is occurring south of the solar equator. You can see that active region rising in the southeast, as well as two spots of slight magnetic organization there in the south-central region. Some bright spots near the solar pole also there in the south. And we may be switching current sheets, actually. We'll show you that in a moment. And let's move on, as there's a lot of stuff to cover. Let this play through real quick. Actually at the normal speed. And there's 4 hours of data from that. Now, I do believe that that coronal mass ejection originated from around this region. It looks like it's almost fully detached from the Sun now. Here are the magnetic fields faded to 171 angstroms. Here's 304 angstroms, and we've got a view of that as well as 171. Here's a 304 angstroms custom movie. Looking at that active region complete with the Earth scale there. Not a whole lot of filaments associated with it yet. Could be a sunspot. We'll keep you posted. And here's the 171 angstroms view of that rising active region. And let's move on. 10.7 centimeter radial flux is at 69 solar flux units. Here's a close-up, and I would note that the radial flux has not been to 75 since late 2017. So over 2 years of radial flux below 75 during this solar minimum, as we rise back to approaching 70 at 69. So here is the KP index, a global measurement of geomagnetism, steady at 1 over the past 18 hours. X-ray flux is basically flatlined here, and I haven't broken out any of the X-ray imagers to really see where that little tiny peak came from. Not even a B-class flare. No significant proton flux events happening here. Coast is clear as far as protons go. Looking at the real-time solar wind, we see a recently shifted phi angle over the past few hours. Current phi angle around 209 degrees. And the BT/BZ are fairly uneventful here, close to the zero line there. Current solar wind density is quite low, 2.8 protons per cubic centimeter, nothing like we saw a couple of days ago where it was 1/10 of a proton per cubic centimeter. This orders of magnitude higher density than that. Solar wind speed recently just came up a little bit to 362 kilometers per second, and NASA and NOAA do forecast a coronal hole wind stream on the way to arrive the 23rd or 24th from that equatorial coronal hole. Next, we're looking at 4 hours of data on the geospace magnetosphere movies. And we don't see a lot of pressure here. We're only looking at the pressure map today. And the main pressure in the magnetotail region. And for you new viewers out there, the sun is in this direction. This is the meridional plane. This is the equatorial plane. Looking at the Earth from 90-degree angles. And we'll let that play through. That's 4 hours of data. And after this, we'll look at the ground geospace magnetic perturbations. If you're wondering what was happening in this model on previous days, we cover it daily on the daily space weather videos. Next, looking at ground magnetic perturbations. And we see some here, surprisingly, which are caused by pure magnetism, not protonic induction from the solar wind. Anyway, welcome to the polar excursion, as we've got two north geomagnetic poles. And we've got a south pole that's no longer on the Antarctic continent, as it is headed into the southern Indian Ocean, someplace south of Australia. Anyway, there's 4 hours of data, and we let that play through a second time as it refreshed before completing its run. These are the dangers of shooting live videos, folks. Can you handle the pressure of smash lights, where we talk about whatever we want, whether it's news headlines, data that's completely out of whack with reality, confusion, cheap plastic viruses that are made in China, or even how to say the word China. It's spelled capital C-H-I-D-A, China. Say it like you have an upper respiratory infection, maybe sinusitis. China, China. You want to talk out of only the top half of your face. Now, on smAsho.com/forum, we've got a entire forum about the Sun Forum. We've created a thing in there called the Solar Events Logger. And I started out with the relativistic solar cosmic rays, which erupted on June 6th and took only a half hour to make it to Earth. Thanks to Be Stoic for putting up an article here about the large solar event of September 29th, 1989, talking about ground level enhancements and solar cosmic rays. So that is another part of the same sort of series of features here, folks. Relativistic protons striking the magnetosphere, and all kinds of other electromagnetic radiation emitting from the local yellow dwarf. Thanks to Connors FX for citing the 1857 to 1858 events, which includes the Carrington event, of course. And we put up an article here from some magazine, Ars Technica, about the sunspots that were associated with the Carrington event. If you want to read up on that, head to smAsho.com/forum. Thanks to our new viewers over there. And you can view it for free. If you want to contribute, you'll have to set up a login. We're almost at 1,300 registered users over there, smAsho.com/forum. And again, this is part of the Sun Forum. We've also got forums on cosmology, Earth and geophysics, general science, and shout out to Nay Boje. We've moved your Bumblebees Can Levitate post to general science, as that is not Schumann resonances and has nothing to do with geophysics. except of course that the bees live on Earth. So there's that Ars Technica article. Again, that is fully picked up in the Solar Events Logger at smashamash.com/forum. Another thread you might want to check out over there is movie recommendations. We watched another one yesterday, The Devil's Reign, and here's my short blurb review. Starring Ernest Borgnine and William Shatner, is a generically satanic supernatural thriller where Ernest Borgnine plays a failing demonic insurance agent on a scavenger hunt, and William Shatner plays the guy getting hunted. There are more all-star cast members also, such as John Travolta, believe it or not. It's got fantastic practical effects, and the action starts pretty much immediately, as this one is a true mid-70s classic. Ernest Borgnine's performance as a high satanic priest is noteworthy, and it's odd to see Borgnine in such a role. Highly recommend this one, especially for those who are interested in all things demonic, satanic, cultish, horror, realistic, ritualistic, etc. Make sure your soul is pure, and check this one out. It's free with Amazon Prime. Here are some photos where Borgnine, well, I won't give anything away. No spoilers. And if you like generically satanic films, this one will not disappoint, and the practical effects are spectacular. Here's John Travolta, and we won't tell you what's happening, we'll just move on. We've got other recommendations in there as well, such as Diani and Divine Meet the Apocalypse, a movie before its time from 2016. So check it out, smashamash.com/forums, and congratulations on surviving a global pandemic. Well done. We appreciate your not being dead and viewing the videos. There's shirts on the way. The prototype will be here probably this week. Smasher Price, my first pandemic. Your ancestors survived much worse. You likely will too. If you enjoy the content, please press like and subscribe over on YouTube. Press that notification bell. You might even get informed when we produce a new video. I doubt it. We're also on BitChute, bitchute.com/smashomash. And we're all over social media. Let's check out some headlines here. Starting out with HuffPo. A federal judge's husband was killed and somebody else shot, I believe, perhaps an assassination attempt. Lots of stories about federal officers quelling riots in major cities across the U.S. Dr. Birx telling the White House that the coronavirus surge was fading, something that's true, which is why she's being hunted by various propagandist, alarmist news sources who put politics ahead of actual information. So here's the article about that. And I don't know, I have no comment. Let's check out BuzzFeed News, another highly questionable news source like HuffPost. And let's just see if there's anything noteworthy. Oh, Roger Stone used a racial slur during an interview with a black radio host. Do you believe him? I don't know. BuzzFeedNews.com. We like to look at questionable news sources as well as legitimate ones. She criticized the CEO of her old company over diversity. He told her to apologize or we're going to war. Oh my God, it must be a right-wing nationalist, possibly a Nazi skinhead. 9 photo stories that will challenge your view of the world. Has coronavirus challenged your view of the world? Do people seem even dumber than they were just a week ago? Are you having trouble finding anybody with some reason? Well, check out reason.com. It's a libertarian publication. Unlike HuffPo and BuzzFeed News, it will occasionally come through with actual relevant stories that are not completely skewed with a political bent. What it's like to be a business owner during COVID-19. I've got a hint for you. It's not good. And I'm just letting the headline scroll here. A new Charles Manson documentary series pulls all the disturbing threads together. Let's check out the latest. Brickbait, an unexpected change of FDA announces blueprint for new era of smarter food safety. Capitalism trumps hate. Here's the real clear politics headlines. Voter expectation data predicts Trump will win. Joe Biden's VP could be the most powerful in history. I agree there. Here's what's going on in Washington Examiner. Joe Biden looking like a complete COVIDiot with a mask on his face. Maybe he can't grow a beard and he wants to look like a Muslim. I'm not sure. A Republican indicted for voter fraud gives Democrats another chance to win. Now, for all of you wondering about my political affiliation, I've been an independent since day one. I refuse to align with any political party, as I've had beef with the government since I was 4 years old while enrolling for kindergarten. Is my first remembered time of telling the government to shove it. I learned to read at age 3 so I wouldn't have to go to school, and that didn't work out because they would have thrown my mom in jail. Now we're looking at Lehigh Valley Live. Oh my God, their top story is 780 new cases reported. Is anybody sick? Does anybody have symptoms? Well, I guess that's not news, but apparently cases are very important now, as deaths fall and fall and fall, and the U.S. slowly reaches herd immunity, which is basically already got on the East Coast. Did you know science has always been political? Well, I didn't know, but there's an article here. And I don't know, it's science.sciencemag.org. You can find that article. Science has always been political. What's the conclusion? I have no idea. Congressional testimony from scientific advocates over the intervening 75 years that didn't echo some of the themes. Geez, isn't that weird? You think it might have to do with funding, folks? By the way, if you want to reach us to get us to cover a news story or solar event or anything in general, hit us up at the smAsho VoIP line. You can send us a text message. It's country code 1, area code 610-936-9799. That's country code 1, area code 610-936-9799. And thanks for tuning in to another episode of Smash Lights. It's time to get on with some more things. And thanks for leaving comments. Be Stoic. Be Stoic thinks he figured out cosmic jets. A magnet layers stacked where the polarity is going from center of the toroid. If you say so. If you say so. Let's get on to more data. The GOES magnetometer is looking a little bit steep here, and we could be jumping back and forth between current sheet polarities, especially with a coronal mass ejection on the way. So don't be surprised if this is all over the place over the next 36 hours. And we'll show you more information on that. Here's the line of sight field plot. And keep in mind the data is an hour and 27 minutes old, and it can change at any time. The activity that we see is south of the equator, so if you see this move, expect to see this B field move down a little bit toward the southern polar region. No major striations in the B field now. Here's the top view ecliptic plane field plot, and you can see that there could be some North Pole polarity popping out in this area. And that active region could cause us to be back in the North Pole current sheet. And so that's why we're expecting some major striations in the GOES magnetometer data over the next 36 hours. Keep in mind the magnetic environment can change with no warning. Here's the 1 year of electron flux, and we're back to levels that we haven't seen in months here. More normal levels of electron flux. We see some anomalies over the Caribbean, southern Mexico, the South Pacific off of Baja California. Otherwise, pretty normal electron content. This is the entire air column we're looking at here, and this gives you an idea of where your GPS errors would be located. Here's 3 days of electron flux, and again, we've reached the highest levels we've seen in months. Midday yesterday. Don't be surprised to see this reach warning levels. It could cause some satellite charging hazards and some major GPS errors, especially around the equator at noon. Here's just one layer of the atmosphere, just the ionosphere. And it's looking a little more normal than it did yesterday. Here's the latest image. This one coming in at 9:15 UT. Pretty normal looking ionosphere there. Here's where stuff is in the solar system. Tomorrow's a new moon. Here's where things will be in a week. As Mercury gains on Venus and Venus gains on the Earth creeps up to Mars. By the way, Venus is quite high in the sky now. If you're up before dawn, you should be able to see a great view of the morning star at magnitude negative 4.4 right now. Also much fainter, it's being trailed by Mercury. And if you're up before dawn, you can see Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars, perhaps all at the same time as well. And the moon's taking its time in between Mercury and the sun to rise up on the ecliptic. If you've got a low horizon, you may be able to see Mercury, the moon, and Venus all at once. We've got some major heat advisories here, including excessive heat warnings all up the entire east, all the way up into Maine, actually. Next, looking at lightningmaps.org to show you some real-time lightning data. And we've got a major convergence zone happening once again over places like Nebraska and Missouri. Kansas City, Missouri, indeed. If you're in Omaha, get outside and look to the south and southwest. You may see sprites. And I know it's not light there yet. Next time you hear thunder, and by the way, there's thunder rolling in Lincoln. Next time you hear thunder, check out lightningmaps.org or perhaps blitzertung.org, which is the exact same thing. Impress your friends and frighten your foes by forecasting thunder. Tell them you're Thor or Odin or something like that. Next, looking at volcanoes here at volcanodiscovery.com to see Mount Abico is back to erupting, flight level 12,000 there. Yasur exploding, flight level 4,000 there. Shishaldin is on the list despite no explosive eruption. Not sure why. Sangay is exploding, flight level 19,000 there. Ravenador exploding, flight level 15,000 there. And Sabancaya exploding, flight level 24,000 there. Please don't attempt to pole vault the caldera. Next, looking at the last 24 hours of earthquakes, we don't see anything over a 6 magnitude. Here's a deep quake at Bolivia near Pupa Cubed. Pupa Cubed. If you've never been to Pupa Cubed, I haven't either. It sounds amazing. Don't poop your pants if you feel a deep quake like this one, which is a 4.6 magnitude at 210 kilometers. One of the major spots for deep quakes besides Oceania is indeed Western South America. Here's a deep one at Japan, at Shingangsstrom, Japan. That one's a 4.1 at 393 kilometers. And then just a few minutes later, boom, a deep quake strikes Colombia. So only 12 minutes afterwards, a deep quake strikes on the other side of the Pacific Ocean. Check it out. It's a 4.6 at 163. And then a few hours later, we see a deep quake in Afghanistan. So deep quakes kicking off all around. There's a quake on Iceland. It's at a fairly normal depth. Here's an extreme deep quake at Fiji. It's at over 600 kilometers depth and a 4.3 magnitude. If that were at the surface, that would be over a 6 magnitude quake. Largest of the past 24 may have been this 5.2 at Sandwich Islands. I think it is actually. Yep, South Sandwich Islands is the largest quake of the past 24. Here's another deep quake at Tonga. It's a 4.3 magnitude at 256 kilometers. And here's one at California that just came in as we're doing the show. That one is at a depth of 800 meters above sea level, east of Mono Lake. And we've seen quite a few extreme depth in that they're above sea level, likely magmatic activity there in California. Next, looking at pressure zones here, it's windy.com's pressure maps. We're allowing this to advance and animate into the future. We'll pause it around noontime tomorrow on Tuesday, July 21st. There's where things will be at noon according to the GFS forecast. And the Anderson-Cooper anticyclone is holding strong in the Central Pacific. Congrats to Anderson-Cooper, reporter from the Climate Nonsense Network. Or you could say the Communist News Network, known as CNN. CNN, the most busted name in news. Here's the jet streams of the Western world. And we see some extreme jet stream flow in the wrong direction over here, around where the Saharan dust is expected to be traveling, which, by the way, causes higher pressure. And here are the jets of the Eastern world. Extreme meridional jet stream flow We've got a jet stream moving due north in this area, due south in this area. It's become the norm, not the oddity. Next, we're looking at water vapor maps. This is Africa and Europe. Here's water vapor maps for the Far East and Oceania. Here's a water vapor map for the Americas. Here's the U.S. Doppler radar map, and we'll show you this first, and then we'll show you the U.S. water vapor map to show you an indication of where these storms are going to be headed, as they are very strong. Taking their time sweeping across the state of Nebraska, northern Kansas, Missouri, and they look like they're largely moving to the due east direction. Here's the water vapor map to try to confirm that. And we're well aware that there are often issues regarding Doppler radar, and so we need to use space-based systems to give us a better indication of how these things will move. So we do have trailing dry mass of air here, as well as leading edge dry mass of air, and that could cause those storms to stagnate a bit over places like Iowa, Missouri. Over the next few hours, we're going to zoom in on that zone there, as that is the point of most resistance. Actually, it's the point of least resistance as far as air resistance, because hot, moist air is less massive than dry, cold air. Anyway, there's that data. And these things are going to move almost due east, it looks like, from this. By the way, thanks to our patrons, the real source of funding for the content, please consider becoming a patron and increase the probability that these videos will continue to exist, be publicly visible, and be free for all to see. We're also on Subscribestar. Visit the other links below the video as well. Again, t-shirts coming soon. Thanks to the Smash team. Thanks for viewing Tales from the Smash Side. I have been your host, smAsho Mash, aka Dan. And thanks for allowing me to vanish, and thanks for flying American Smashways. Thank you for surviving a global pandemic. Sorry about the infantile response of mankind. Please keep your head and arms inside the Smash plane at all times. Here is an intensitygram to show you 0 sunspots among these active regions in the southern region. No sunspots, and that active region not rising enough yet to be able to see anything. Here are the magnetic fields in the colorized magnetogram. Again, 0 sunspots. And we're going to bring up one more view here. This will give us a view of the coronal holes that have sent some protons our way. These equatorial coronal holes, visible in the 193 angstroms views, protons are expected to arrive by NOAA and NASA around the 23rd or 24th. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Thanks everybody who views the live premiere events. We always like to view the live premieres with our audience, as this way we can answer questions in real time sometimes. And may that solar wind be at your back.